the margins are so thin right now for a farmer to take his his beef cattle and fatten it. He's paying too much for the grain to be able to fatten the cow. And a lot of these people don't have good grazing land for grass to flip it to grass fed. They just try to get it mature, and then they just fatten it up on corn and get it into the meat packer. Well, that's not working. And the guys that do that for a living, I think it's $100 a head profit right now on a cow. And they're like, that's not enough for us.
And Bitcoin's price skyrocketing to $58,000 plus as Tesla invests $1 billion into the popular cryptocurrency. This reportedly netted the company $1 billion in profit. It's very likely Bitcoin's going to continue to increase in valuation. And right now, it's more vital than ever to learn how crypto works so you and your family can benefit. Trade Genius is the best platform online for those who want to learn how to make money trading the stock market or cryptocurrencies from the control of their home. I was able to profit myself because I learned to trade through Trade Genius Academy on the crypto side and took part in various courses, personal coaching, chat rooms, signals trading tool. That's where I look for price signals in cryptocurrency from Bob Kudla at TradeGeniusAcademy.com, who also offers other signature trading tools for stocks, exchange-traded funds, binary options, and commodities. All you need is an internet connection to get started. Interact with Trade Genius community, fellow traders, and certified Trade Genius trades, alongside professionals who generate revenue for themselves in the stock market every single day. Live buy and sell alerts text to your phone, built for both new and experienced traders. Two of the courses Trade Genius has available. Be sure to check out their personal coaching and 24/7 chat room options. TradeGeniusAcademy.com. Click on the link below and use the promo code MARCH for 45% off non-bundled items. And now on with the video. Good afternoon, everyone. Wow, so much has happened since the last time Bob and I talked. And we had pinpointed some of these 1970s freeze events. We're going to roll back around again if it had anything to do with solar activity and anything to do if it was cyclic and not because of you and me doing what we do in our daily lives. So here we are again, another month later, and today we wanted to talk about the similarities, not only in the climate in the freeze events, but also in the economic events that we can look a little bit into the future and see where the food price is going. The Texas power outages should have been a wake up for a lot of people who were sort of on the fence. Is this happening or not? But secondly, I've been really digging into the destruction of agriculture. We'll discuss a little bit about that, what they're expecting for the losses. And everywhere you look across, I was digging into the FAO reports yesterday and the day before. There's nowhere that food is not going up incredible amounts. The lowest amount of inflation I found on food was 6.5%. That's the lowest. So you imagine other places at 50%, 200%. So we're so lucky to be in the States only running at 6.5% food inflation. But, this does not bode well for us moving out into gargantuan crop losses from the freezes, delayed planting seasons, and expect another freeze to have a little, setback in terms of when the soil is going to warm up. So tradelikeagenius.com. Bob Kudla, as always, like to pick your brain, and here we go. I know you're all going to get something out of this, very valuable to set up your lives in the future. So Bob, thanks for joining me.
Hey, Dave, great opening monologue. Yeah, so what's really fascinating is that we're going into a grand solar minimum, and we're at the same time setting up the stock market economic situation that what it looked like at the end of the 1960s, the beginning of the 1970s. And I think it ties also with the weather. And what we're seeing here is that terms that are being bandied about are inflationary depression, rotation into commodities. But the bottom line is we're going into stagflation. Now, I'm probably the only one, you have a lot of listeners, but in the investment community, very few people have lived through the 1970s and I did as a child. And I was just telling my subscribers today that, I grew up in Allentown, Pennsylvania, lived in the city, but my high school was 3 miles, 3.5 miles away. And I played sports. And if my parents couldn't come get me, sometimes I'd have to walk home. Well, the price of oil quadrupled, and we had one car. My dad only had enough in his budget to him to get to work and back, and the few side trips you take during the week, to take care of necessities. And I found myself, if I couldn't get a ride from a friend, walking back and forth to school. And I think people don't realize what's going to happen here. Something like that happened again. Oil's going to go from $3 a gallon to $12 a gallon, and people don't truly understand the horrific nature of what the Federal Reserve with the politicians are going to do to the middle and the poor classes in this country. Oil is hitting in the mid 70s already, and there's no crisis. There's going to be a problem, and food goes right with it. And so in 2011, they tried to, and I think it might even been Janet Yellen that was even at the Fed at the time.
She was.
So she played this game where she kept trying to soften the dollar so that they can get trade advantage. Well, it turned into the Arab Spring because there's like 19 or 20 countries that are pegged to the dollar. Well, they couldn't afford importation of food, and it basically blew up the Middle East. And now I think we're on turbo steroids here with the I would call it phase one of the destruction of the American way of life here. They're going to pop another $4 trillion towards the end of the year. And if you notice, the stimulus that they're putting together now is really focused on supporting just a few states. It's not a broad-based build for the future kind of spending. This is all seed corn being consumed. And what it's going to do is it's going to drive the cost of living much higher. Have you noticed today the stock market didn't really like it? It popped and then it sold off. And that pop is it basically technical. They're creating a bull trap. And I'm expecting to see this market roll over. The NASDAQ, the growth sector, did not like it at all. NASDAQ was pretty much down all day today. Those are the bellwethers. So if you have money in the stock market and you're passively investing it with a money manager, well, that money manager, without any activity on his part or her part, have put you in the most riskiest names in the stock market. And as Tesla goes, so will your portfolio, because Tesla and Apple and Microsoft and Google, Netflix, Twitter, all those are all tied into the ETFs that you're in. So you're going to start seeing stock losses at the same time your cost of living goes up. Oh, by the way, they're going to lose control of the 10-year on a short-term basis. That means forget about refining your mortgage, or if you have a loan, or if you have a business and you have term loans, all that stuff's going to go up in price. And then when they panic there, then they're going to drive the dollar down and your cost of living will go up again. So there's no more good outcomes. If they try to protect the bond market, the stock market collapses. If they try to protect the stock market, the bond market collapses, and then the people suffer. So it's just going to be a big mess. And then we have a president who's not there. I mean, literally not there. And so there's a vacuum of leadership, and you have all these fiefdoms now are going to be fighting and vying for power. So that's the setup for this. And so the good news is there's stuff you can own and buy and keep. And if you don't mind, I can share my screen real quick and show you a couple.
Yeah, let me throw in a couple thoughts there, because just a couple of days ago, I stumbled across that chart from Bank of America where they had linked all of the stimulus into that bevy of those 6 stocks that you talked about there, those 6 companies that are listed on the exchanges. It was nearly 100% correlation of how much extra money was put in to prop the market up, and how much the valuation of those combined of those 6 had gone up, including Netflix, Apple, et cetera. Shocked me. And I was like, that is impossible. But, as we come through, you'd said it so many times, we can't conjecture or, do mind and role plays on something that's never happened before. But gasoline prices have gone up 3x, 4x. So I am of the volition that even if gasoline went to $6 a gallon, food prices went up 50 or 100%, our society would start to tear apart. And when you talk about the fiefdoms and the kingdoms and you just look through past history, I don't know how much longer people in America are going to continue to, if they're in the Southeast region or different regions. West Coast is its own thing, so diametrically opposite from the Southeast US in the way of thinking and politics. Eventually, they're just going to say enough's enough. Like, that system's not working over there. Their economy is not working. It's drawing on ours. It's taking everybody down. So it would not surprise me if we balkanized here. And like you say, the fiefdoms would tear off onto their own. But think about, before that would happen, we'd have to come into some serious economic hardship. And when people's backs are against the wall, they behave a little differently than perhaps just everyday working life. So just so many things moving forward. And I'd like to see those charts that you're talking about, because, the glimpse of what we're seeing, the whole rumblings of market, dissolving and shattering and then re-emerging somewhere on the backside into a new kind of system, perhaps, including cryptocurrency and Bitcoin above 50,000 again on that pump today. So as we switch systems, will we also switch regional governments, or will it be more of a regional governmental overseership of the U.S., where it'll break up into something very similar to what the FEMA zones are, 1 through 11? Would those also be the political zones? Because these are the kind of things that I'm thinking about. Because if I'm growing food and the whole Southeast U.S. is growing food, why would the people here in the Southeast U.S. in the heartland of the food being grown pay triple, quadruple for their food when it's being grown here? There's going to be a lot of things like, no, you're not going to take the food and sell it over there and call it, there's a lot of things. Oil refining too. There's to check 1,000 boxes of people are not going to continue to accept what's happening.
Yeah, for me, it's just really simple. It's the revenge of the red states. So the people that are advocating these policies are, the best example I ever give people is really the Hunger Games, right? So there's 5 urban areas that are controlled by the lefted progressives that basically want everything cheap, and then they want to control your life, right? You have San Francisco, LA, Chicago, New York, Washington D.C. Those metroplexes are all controlled by the hardcore progressives, and they're the consumers, right? So the producers live everywhere else, and those are really run by red states. Look, the political union is fine. The United States is not going to break apart. Too many people live everywhere. So, mothers and daughters and brothers and sisters aren't going to be fighting each other. It's really going to be the blue state enclaves are going to be brought to heel, because they're not going to get the stuff into their region. I'll give you an example. So, you start screwing around with raising food prices. Well, those trucks may get to the city's edge, but they may not go in. Okay. And if they go in, they may get jacked, and then they won't go in again. The feds and the National Guard are going to spend more time in these cities trying to get food to the people in the cities than worrying about running around what a bunch of militia guys may or may not be doing somewhere in the Ozarks. Okay. They're going to have their hands full. And so that's my thing. It's going to be really the revenge of the producers. We've been consuming now for 50 years, and they've been suppressing the producers. And now I think the snapback's going to happen. And I'm going to show you some screens real fast of things that we're working. Yeah, so here's ANDE. So ANDE is Anderson's, and this is a company, it was an ag business company, but they do everything but grow the crops, okay? And look at it, hit 52-week high today. They run grain elevators, they do transportation, they provide insurance to farmers. See, this is the kind of business you want to be in. This is one of our programs right here. It flashed an alert. And, look at from there. And this is a really, really conservative company. And you're talking about a move right now in the last, 6 months up.
That's
100%.
double.
And so that's they don't even make anything, but they enable the things that get made. Okay. So here's another company. I haven't bought anything yet because it's still too young, and it's just still working their way out. This company here wants to grow everything in greenhouses. I'm sure you've heard of this guy. It's still too young. So you stay away from it until the insiders have sold out. But keep an eye on this company called App Harvest. All right, their greenhouses are like in West Virginia to support food vegetable growing under glass in the Northeast, and then you go down here to
Yeah, she's been on that for Mosaic forever.
Look at Mosaic, and Mosaic's breaking it back up over the 50 of the fib. And look, this is another thing. Look, I've been buying since down here, and it's ready to take another move higher. 33.26 is my next thing. It's going to go ahead and hit over here at 37. I have a target of 50 personally. And then if you don't like that, if you want a little bit more spice in your life, you can hit IPI. This is a bit of more of a rocket ship, a smaller cap name. And so these are some of the names that are popping. And then we got one today, BGS, a food company that's been moving too. BG Foods, it had a big pop, starting to get bought again down here. It hit my oversold here. This is one of our indicators. Our algorithm is telling me, pay attention here, Bob. We're rolling off of an oversold. This isn't stochastics, by the way, people. This is a different oscillator, and we got a green on the heat map. So I'm looking for another move here. It already popped to here, but I'm looking for a move up to here. These are all the names. And I'll stop sharing so we can see each other again. Yeah. But this is stuff that I'm playing with. That's going to ignore the recession because of the food prices are going to just. I think people are going to be shocked. We've been living, Dave, without too much crisis in this country for so long that it's just a matter of mathematics that you have this volatility coming. I don't think the American people, first of all, they're not going to know how to deal with it, and they're not going to like it. And then once they get focused on where it was caused, I don't think I want to be a politician. Now I know why they put the fence up. Okay, they're going to have people. They're going to be dealing with people that are going to be really unhappy with the decisions that they're making, that are not improving people's lives, but just causing problems. And guess what? And these same politicians will sell our pork and beef right underneath us and send it right out of the country too. So watch for that becoming an issue too. And you talk about regionalized. Texas may say, no food gets exported unless our people have enough to eat, or I'm going to cut a deal with Kansas and Iowa, and I'll send my beef north if you send your pig south, and vice versa. So the federal government is going to lose control, I believe, of the states. There's already 30 states that are run by Republicans. They've already made it clear that they're not going to abide by the executive orders that they feel that are beyond the rightful scope of the federal government. 40 states are controlled by Republican legislatures. So the fact that the federal government can control the United States is probably a fantasy that's going to be tested really soon. And you got to realize these National Guard guys, there's not like a reservoir of robots sitting underneath the Potomac River. These people come from, a lot of them from red states. They're not going to send their people to another state to put down an uprising, especially since probably 80% of anybody in the military doesn't lean that way. So it's going to be like Romania towards the end when the troops decided not to fire on their own people. And then we're going to realize how much power the feds don't have over people's day-to-day lives. And when this food thing comes, look, what are you going to do about, now that my ground beef is $9.99 a pound when I used to be paying $3.99 a pound for it, because the guys had to kill all their cows because they couldn't get fed because corn prices are too high. People are going to become really, really good experts at why the cost of everything's going up. And it's going to point right back to the politicians basically stealing for themselves.
Yeah, and let me throw a couple of personal stories in here. I'm getting my orchard set up. So I have an orchard manager coming in to help me. We have 250 fruit trees that we're putting out. So at the same time, I've been running around to find a lot of different soil adjuvants and hitting the quarries looking for the granite dust. So I'm spending a lot of time in the seed and feed stores on the commercial level that are for commercial farmers, because I have my farm registered anyway. So I go and I can get, I'm a farm. So I get whatever I usually get the 50-pound bags of everything from the fertilizers to the seed. I'm running into the same thing. You talked about the potash there. I got the last 2 bags of the 0450 out of the co-op, and it's planting season, like literally in weeks, and they still don't have that much potash in there. I'm still shocked. I got the last 2 bags of the sorghum. It's the Sudan grass sorghum, or Sudan grass, however you want to pronounce that. You can use it for silage, or if you wait, it can go to the grain on the head there. But to take the last 100 pounds out of a co-op when they're coming into the season, and I was looking at ag facts, so let me read you here. Before Bob and I were talking, I was digging into the wheat freeze injury in Texas, because I know that we're going to have to switch crops. So instead of, I'm going to do buckwheat in the beginning here for the pollinator crop on a couple acres in the back. And I'm also going to do sorghum at the same time. So I've been kind of filtering through to look at the right timing on the planting. And so here it is in South Texas. What they're looking at is the damage. It was the coldest ever recorded in some of these growing areas. So the damage that seems to be happening on prolonged freezes, stems are hollow. Like they haven't seen this before. This injury is hollow stems. And what they're finding is that the hollow stemming is your plants are gone for the year. And even if they're coming up just they call it jointing, where it's coming out of the ground. And, it was a little bit warmer in some of these areas, so it had a little bit of growth spurt before that. Anything they're looking at, empty stems coming up through here, which is not good for yields. Also the rye, it's a little bit more, let's say, hardy toward the cold. It's a cold tolerant, but what's really damaged are the oats and the barley. And they're trying to figure out what's going to happen with the crop this year. So this is coming off the agricultural site, and they're still trying to guess at the key point on, what the damage has been done to our crops here. So even looking at these other 3 crops beyond the wheat, okay, wheat and corn, we know really well, but then there's all these subsidiary crops and kind of lesser, full market share crops like oats, rye, barley, the sorghum as well. Everywhere you look, it's going to be losses, losses, losses. So coming in, I'm kind of trying to put together a forecast, see how many acres have been damaged that aren't going to come back. You can't replant that and get it to cut. Winter wheat, you got one season to plant that. You can't just go, oh, we're going to plant in the spring. Could they switch crops? Yeah. But anywhere you look, it's going to be food up, and availability of farm fertilizers and seed is completely hourglassed at the moment. It's such at a pinch point right now. So if you're looking out on the long-term horizon, if we're in the middle of an ag area and it's difficult to get just phosphorus to be able to plant, man, there's a huge problem, huge problem here.
Yeah,
Huge.
Also too is they're having transportation issues now too, because there's not enough shipping containers. So you have like coffee is in abundance this year, but they can't get it here. So coffee prices are going to go higher. Same with cocoa. Cocoa prices are down. I guess crops up, demand's down, but you can't get it shipped here cheap enough. So cocoa is going to go up. So it's like you can't win for losing. So you have the grains are going to go up. And the interesting thing too is that like I told my family, is that we're going to get these pushes where you're going to see pork prices and beef prices plummet, and they're all going to say, oh, Bob and Dave don't know what they're talking about. Look how cheap this stuff is. And the reason why they're going to do that is because they're culling their herds, because they can't afford to finish them because of the price of grain. And then you're going to see what happened when we had bacon up to $17.99 a pound, and we had the shortage of beef. You couldn't even get at Costco. You couldn't even get ribeyes at all. They just were like the restaurants. Somebody was grabbing them. They weren't getting to the stores. And remember the one year we lost, they were rationing turkeys. So for the same reason, is that the margins are so thin right now for a farmer to take his beef cattle and fatten it. He's paying too much for the grain to be able to fatten the cow. And a lot of these people don't have good grazing land for grass to flip it to grass fed. They just try to get it mature, and then they just fatten it up on corn and get it into the meat packer. Well, that's not working. And the guys that do that for a living, I think it's $100 a head profit right now on a cow. And they're like, that's not enough for us.